In the silent darkness between the stars, something was moving. Fast, unpredictable, and entirely alien to the forces that usually govern celestial bodies. The object known as 3I Atlas had already caught the attention of astronomers around the world. It was only the third confirmed interstellar visitor ever recorded, following in the footsteps of the enigmatic Oumuamua 1I 2017 U1 and the icy comet 2I Borisov. But this new arrival, this one was different. From the moment it entered the solar system, 3I Atlas refused to behave like a typical comet. It spun irregularly, brightened without warning, and its orbital path began to deviate ever so slightly from what pure gravity should dictate. Some unknown force was pushing it. At first no one noticed. The early data looked routine. A faint speck of light captured by the Atlas survey telescopes in Hawaii, logged as a distant inbound object from interstellar space. But when astronomers ran orbital simulations, they saw an anomaly. The numbers didn't quite fit. Its path curved more sharply than it should have, as though an invisible hand was giving it an extra nudge. That was the first whisper of what scientists call non-gravitational acceleration. Motion, caused not by the pull of the sun or planets, but by something else entirely. Back at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a team of orbital analysts began to recheck the data. They compared 3I Atlas's trajectory with standard models. Normally, comets experience small deviations caused by jets of gas and dust sublimating off their icy surfaces as they warm near the sun, a kind of natural rocket effect. But 3I Atlas was still too far from the sun for that explanation to make sense. It was accelerating before it should have been active. The deeper they looked, the stranger it became. Every interstellar object tells a story about its home, a distant solar system billions of miles away. But the data from 3I Atlas told a story that no one could quite read. Its reflectivity, its chemical fingerprint, and its light curve, all of them hinted at something that wasn't simply a chunk of rock and ice. Its brightness changed erratically, almost as if its surface were covered in reflective metallic patches. When the first infrared scans came in from the James Webb Space Telescope, things got even weirder. Webb detected traces of frozen carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and something that didn't match any known spectral line from a natural object. The data hinted at metallic compounds fused with amorphous carbon. An odd mixture not typically seen in comets formed around ordinary stars. As word spread through the planetary science community, debates erupted. Was this another case like Oumuamua, which had famously displayed unexplained acceleration back in 2017, leading Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb to suggest it might be of artificial origin? Or was there some new physical process at play, something humanity hadn't yet identified? By late October, observatories around the globe had turned their eyes toward 3I Atlas. From Chile's VLT to the Subaru telescope in Hawaii, every major instrument capable of tracking fast-moving faint targets was brought online. The object was now hurtling toward perihelion, its closest approach to the sun. If any outgassing were to occur, this was when it would happen. But what astronomers saw instead was baffling. The comet's coma, the cloud of gas and dust that normally surrounds an active comet, remained faint. Too faint to account for the acceleration. And yet the trajectory continued to shift. The motion could only be explained by a persistent non-gravitational force, equal to thousands of tiny impulses acting in the same direction. That's when the panic and the excitement truly began. Inside NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office, analysts began recalculating potential paths. While 3I Atlas posed no threat to Earth, its unpredictable motion made future tracking difficult. If its acceleration continued, it could slip out of range before crucial instruments could capture the data. An emergency proposal was drafted to use Webb, Hubble, and even ground-based radar arrays to monitor the object in real time. When the first combined data streams came back, the signal was astonishing. The light signature of 3I Atlas fluctuated with a strange periodic rhythm, almost like a pulse. Every few hours, its brightness peaked sharply, then dimmed again. Some researchers proposed that it could be caused by a tumbling motion, but others weren't convinced. The light variations didn't match simple rotation. One particularly intriguing hypothesis came from a small research group in Prague. They noticed that the peaks in brightness aligned almost perfectly with moments when the object's trajectory shifted, as if the two phenomena were linked. Could it be that the same force causing the acceleration was also influencing its reflectivity? That idea led to a flurry of papers, each more speculative than the last. Some suggested electrostatic propulsion driven by interactions with the solar wind. Others hinted at trapped magnetic fields or pressure from exotic outgassing compounds unknown to modern chemistry. But among the many theories, one stood out, because it mirrored the same mystery that had surrounded Oumuamua 8 years earlier. Dr. Avi Loeb, now leading the Galileo project at Harvard, publicly commented, "When an object from interstellar space displays non-gravitational acceleration without visible outgassing, we must consider all possibilities, including artificial mechanisms." His words reignited the debate. Was 3I Atlas a fragment of alien technology, a relic from another civilization's exploration mission, perhaps long dead, drifting between stars until gravity brought it here? NASA, of course, took a cautious stance. Officially, they classified it as a comet with anomalous activity. But off the record, many scientists admitted they had never seen anything quite like it. As the days passed, the anomaly deepened. On October 29th, a series of coordinated observations revealed something unprecedented. A sudden spike in velocity, inconsistent with both gravity and solar radiation pressure. It was as if the object had momentarily boosted itself. The change was tiny, only a few millimeters per second, but unmistakable. The acceleration wasn't random. It followed a pattern. Each burst occurred at nearly the same solar angle, suggesting that whatever was causing it was directional, not isotropic like normal cometary jets. Webb's sensors detected transient heat signatures, short-lived bursts of warmth, lasting mere seconds, then fading into the cold background of space. It looked almost like a pulse of energy emitted from beneath the surface. Something inside 3I Atlas was active. By now, astronomers were working around the clock. The European Space Agency's Gaia Observatory refined the object's position, while NASA's Deep Space Network attempted radar pinging, though the distance made direct contact impossible. Still, the data was enough to reconstruct a detailed model, one that shocked the entire field. I-Atlas was elongated, roughly 400 meters long, with a peculiar symmetry. Unlike natural comets, its albedo map, the measure of reflectivity, showed straight linear contrasts across its surface. One region reflected light almost like polished metal, while another absorbed nearly everything, suggesting a structured composition. At this point, secrecy began to shroud the investigation. Several observatories were told to classify their data temporarily, citing ongoing verification. Leaked memos hinted that government agencies were coordinating the study, perhaps fearing public misinterpretation. But scientists talk, and soon, the world knew that something extraordinary was unfolding beyond Mars's orbit. Independent astronomers from Japan and South Africa confirmed the strange acceleration patterns. The data matched. 3I Atlas was being propelled by a non-gravitational mechanism unlike anything seen before. Back on Earth, social media exploded. Theories spread faster than the object itself. Alien probe, derelict spacecraft, solar sail, even a fragment from a Dyson-like structure drifting through interstellar space. News outlets flooded with speculation. Documentaries replayed old footage of Oumuamua, and once again, the question of extraterrestrial technology returned to the mainstream. But behind the sensational headlines, real science continued. Teams at NASA's Ames Research Center and ESA's Planetary Dynamics Lab began developing new models, simulations that included electrostatic repulsion, solar-wind interactions, and exotic physics. None of them fully explained the data. Then came the most chilling discovery. On November 2nd, an image from Webb's near-infrared spectrograph showed faint geometric patterns on the object's surface, evenly spaced indentations running parallel to its long axis. Some dismissed it as artifact noise, others weren't so sure. Dr. Loeb's team analyzed the image and noted that the spacing corresponded almost perfectly with resonant wave patterns, the kind that might form if the object had once been part of a larger, engineered structure. NASA, meanwhile, doubled down on its data analysis. The official line remained unchanged. Atlas is an interstellar comet exhibiting unusual non-gravitational acceleration, likely caused by asymmetric outgassing. But even within NASA, whispers began to circulate that the outgassing model simply didn't fit. The sublimation rate needed to explain the acceleration would have visibly brightened the comet dozens of times over. It hadn't. Something else was happening out there. As 3I Atlas continued its solar pass, it rotated slowly, revealing new angles to Earth's telescopes. And with each rotation, the light curve told the same cryptic story. Pulses of reflected energy, synchronized with minute changes in velocity. By mid-November, one thing was certain. This was not a simple comet. The world's top scientists gathered for an emergency online conference uniting NASA, ESA, and independent astronomers under one mission: to decode the mystery of 3I Atlas before it slipped back into interstellar space forever. The final observation window was closing fast. Within weeks, the object would fade beyond detection range, vanishing into the black sea of stars from which it came. But before it disappeared, it would deliver one more message, one last signal that would change everything. Because on November 11th, as 3 Atlas reached its farthest solar distance, a sudden radio spike was detected in the same direction, a narrow-band emission, faint, brief, but structured, matching no known natural frequency. And for the first time, humanity wondered. Was something out there trying to push back? For a brief instant, every deep space receiver across the planet registered the same thing. A narrow, structured pulse emanating from the exact coordinates of 3I Atlas. It lasted less than 2 seconds. To most instruments, it was indistinguishable from background static. But to those who knew what to look for, it was unmistakable. Something, or someone, had transmitted from the void. At NASA's Deep Space Network station in Madrid, engineers stared in silence at their monitors. The signal's waveform was unlike any natural emission they had catalogued. It carried a rhythmic modulation, subtle but deliberate, repeating 3 times before fading into cosmic noise. When cross-referenced with other stations, Canberra, Goldstone, and Jodrell Bank, the data aligned perfectly. The source was moving at the exact velocity and trajectory of 3I Atlas. Within minutes, a secure conference call was initiated among NASA, ESA, and several independent observatories. The object that had already defied gravity now appeared to be communicating. The official stance was caution. Cosmic rays, equipment noise, reflected solar flares. Any of these could explain it. But as hours passed and independent confirmations poured in, it became impossible to ignore. The radio burst was intentional, or at least organized by some unknown physical mechanism. At Harvard, Avi Loeb received the raw telemetry. He compared it to historical data from Oumuamua, searching for similar signatures. There were none. Whatever 3I Atlas was, it behaved in ways that went beyond mere speculation. It wasn't just accelerating without gravity. Now it was emitting information. "If this is artificial," Loeb said quietly to his students, "then it's the first technological signal ever detected from another star system. But we must prove it beyond doubt." Back at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, analysts began dissecting the waveform. The pulse wasn't random. It contained harmonic structure, symmetrical peaks separated by intervals that matched the object's rotational frequency. In other words, the signal was synchronized with its spin. This single fact upended the field. If 3I Atlas was tumbling in space and its signal matched that rotation, it meant the emission source was physically attached to the body, not a coincidental cosmic burst. Suddenly, the theories split into two camps. One side argued it was a natural electromagnetic resonance, produced by charged dust and plasma interacting with the solar wind, a phenomenon seen around Jupiter's moons. The other side believed it was deliberate engineering, a transmission from something designed to regulate, stabilize, or perhaps communicate. The mystery deepened when ESA's solar orbiter, positioned between Earth and the Sun, detected a faint echo, a mirror pulse, reflected milliseconds after the original burst. It was as if the object had emitted a signal that bounced off its own surface, and that reflection revealed something astonishing. The echo's phase suggested flat geometry, like a plane or panel reflecting energy, not a rough rocky surface. NASA ordered an immediate reanalysis of all imaging data. When they stacked hundreds of frames from Webb and Hubble, enhanced for contrast, a shape began to emerge. It wasn't conclusive, but it was clear enough to raise eyebrows. Atlas appeared geometrically flat on one side, and slightly concave on the other, a profile disturbingly similar to a solar sail. For decades, scientists had theorized that interstellar civilizations could use large reflective sails to travel between stars, harnessing starlight as propulsion. Now an object exhibiting non-gravitational acceleration, reflective surfaces, and directed radio emission was passing through our solar system. The parallels were undeniable. By November 13th, global media had caught the story. News channels flashed headlines: "NASA detects radio signal from interstellar object, 3I Atlas. Alien probe or cosmic coincidence?" NASA tried to downplay the hysteria, emphasizing that no intelligent origin had been confirmed. But within the agency, behind closed doors, the conversation was very different. A secret task force, Project Dawnline, was assembled under NASA's Planetary Science Division. Its purpose to determine whether 3I Atlas was a natural phenomenon or evidence of technological construction. The project brought together astrophysicists, materials engineers, and data specialists from around the world. They modeled every possible explanation: sublimation jets, electrostatic forces, light pressure amplification, but none produced the exact combination of acceleration, reflectivity, and radio emission observed. Meanwhile, as the comet moved outward from the Sun, the non-gravitational acceleration continued. Steady, precise, and oriented along a single vector. It was as though the object were steering itself. Days turned into nights of relentless observation. Each new data set added another layer of confusion. The object's light curve began to change again, flickering in distinct intervals. This time the pulses matched the same rhythm as the radio signal: 3 short bursts. A pause. Then 3 more, over and over again. Binary researchers converted the timing into data sequences: 6, 6, 6, though the interpretation was controversial. Was it a code, a structural resonance, or simply a trick of reflection? To verify, NASA used the Goldstone Solar System radar to transmit a controlled test signal toward the object. The idea was simple: bounce a radar pulse off 3I Atlas and analyze the echo pattern. It worked, but what came back wasn't just Reflection, the returning signal, contained phase distortions inconsistent with any natural scatter. It was modulated, as if the object had slightly altered the signal before reflecting it back. The modification was tiny, almost imperceptible, but mathematically significant. The waveform carried phase-shifted packets, each separated by 1.618 seconds, the golden ratio in time intervals. This was no coincidence. In the control room at Goldstone, silence fell. For the first time in history, a man-made signal sent into space had returned in a form that appeared intentionally altered. Publicly, NASA remained cautious. The official press release mentioned anomalous radar echoes under review. But inside the classified channels, urgency spiked. Project Dawnline was expanded overnight. The Pentagon's UAP Analysis Office requested access to the raw data, citing national security interest. The world was on edge. In online forums, theories exploded. Some claimed the signal was an alien probe trying to communicate. Others said it was an ancient derelict, powered by solar pressure, awakening after millennia. A few scientists warned that the acceleration might not be self-propelled at all, but a side effect of exotic materials reacting to sunlight. Still, one truth remained. 3I Atlas was defying every known law of cometary motion. As the object moved past Mars's orbit, its brightness unexpectedly increased, not faded. Most comets dim as they retreat from the sun, but 3I Atlas glowed even stronger, as if it were harvesting energy. NASA's infrared telescope facility detected periodic heat signatures that cycled every 12 hours. Each burst coincided with a minute surge in acceleration. It was as though the object were absorbing light, converting it and expelling it in precise intervals. And then came the second signal. This time, the pulse lasted 4 full seconds, twice as long as the first. It wasn't random noise. Spectral analysis revealed frequency harmonics corresponding to hydrogen and oxygen emission lines, the basic building blocks of water. But the pattern wasn't natural. The modulation frequency repeated the same golden ratio timing. Inside Project Dawnline, debates turned philosophical. Was this communication a diagnostic system from a long-dead craft, or perhaps a beacon, designed to activate when exposed to a specific stellar spectrum, like our sun's? To test the idea, a coordinated response was attempted. Using the Arecibo backup array in Puerto Rico, scientists transmitted a low-frequency replica of the object's original signal, encoded with binary markers representing atomic numbers 1 and 8. Minutes passed. Then hours. No reply. And then 12 hours later, precisely aligned with the object's rotation, another faint pulse arrived. The same sequence repeated, not a reply, a mirror. It was repeating what it received. The realization chilled everyone involved. Whatever 3I Atlas was, it wasn't thinking in real time. If it was ever alive or operational at all, it was behaving like a beacon, a recorder, or a drifting relic programmed to respond under certain conditions. Dr. Loeb called it a cosmic time capsule. Others called it an interstellar ghost. Still, the question remained, who built it and how old was it? Analysis of the isotopic ratios from the outgassed material gave a clue. The composition didn't match any nearby star system in the galaxy's local spiral arm. The ratio suggested an origin beyond 200 light-years, possibly from the Perseus arm of the Milky Way, an ancient region rich in metallic stars. That meant 3I Atlas could have been traveling for millions of years. By late November, as the object began its slow exit from the solar system, its acceleration decreased, not suddenly but in a graceful curve, like a ship shutting down its engines. One last signal came through on November 28th, the same 3 bursts, but this time followed by a single longer tone, A closing note before silence. It was the last anyone ever heard from 3I Atlas. Over the following weeks, as the object faded into the depths, NASA released its final summary. 3I Atlas exhibits measurable non-gravitational acceleration and intermittent radio emission inconsistent with known natural phenomena. Data analysis continues, but in the corridors of NASA and the archives of Project Dawnline, the story was far from over. Some scientists quietly speculated that the object might not have been moving through our solar system by coincidence, but rather that our sun had been its intended destination all along. The trajectory, when traced backward through galactic coordinates, pointed not from random interstellar space, but from a region near Epsilon Eridani, a system known for its debris disks and young planets. Could it have been launched from there, or had it merely passed by, collecting energy from star to star across centuries of cosmic silence? No one could say. As winter settled on Earth, the excitement faded. The telescopes moved on to new targets. The news cycle quieted. Yet in hidden research labs and encrypted data archives, the mystery of 3I Atlas lived on, a question with no closure, a riddle drifting between stars. Years later, when humanity's first interstellar probe left the solar system, engineers etched a simple message on its frame. To whoever finds this, we wondered, too. And somewhere far beyond the edge of light, 3I Atlas continued its endless journey, silent, cold, and indifferent. But perhaps, just perhaps, still listening. Because the universe rarely repeats itself by accident.